All right, guys, back. Sorry, it was a little longer than that. Hey, Jacob, I just saw your message about your wrinkle fan. Um, Let me know. Okay, you are there. Awesome. So I don't know when you have to leave today, but there's some special setups with the indicators. If you've already ran the installer and have the indicators in your platform, then I just want to, if you're there, just follow along with me real quick, just to get the indicators to work on non-time sequence bars. I didn't notice when you happened to come in to the webinar, so I don't know if you heard that the flux histograms, what we have just been talking about so far, are time-based indicators, and they have to be placed on time-based charts because that's the only reference that it can get. But the time cycle markers, which we're about to discuss, gives you the same information that the histograms do, but there is the ability to put them onto non-time-based charts as well. Okay, give me your machine ID number. I can set up the license for you. I don't get alerts for all of like when people run the installer, so I'm sorry, I did not get the machine ID number. So if you just send that to me, I can get that activated for you right away. Also to show you on our website in the training video archive. Yeah, the bar transporter is used as well. Perfect. In the training video archive, download this video here. So like I said, it was just a recording from a couple of months ago, one of my Monday morning webinars similar to this. And I think it's the 1 hour, 44-minute mark, if I'm remembering correctly. I start talking about how to load indicators on non-time-based charts. So if you aren't around when I discuss it today, which we will jump right into it, but if you have to step away, that's fine. Just know that you can come here and I discuss it in detail in that video. So download that and you can watch it. I think it's the 1 hour and 44-minute mark. Yes, sure, no problem. Give me 1 second, everyone. Bear with me. It will take me 2 seconds to activate Jacob's license. And if you guys ever, also to let you know, if you ever have an issue with your license, if you ever get a pop-up contact vendor message or anything, take a copy of that, like a screenshot, or you can highlight the text and copy and paste it into an email to me. And I will be able to determine what the issue is from that point, whether it's a changed machine ID number or if you just need to run the third-party licensing feature, which connects you to our licensing database. So there's a couple of different reasons that might happen. But if you get that message, like I said, just take a screenshot of it or copy and send it to me, and I'll be able to tell you what the issue is and fix it, get you back up and running. Okay, Jacob, follow this real quick. Go to your Ninja Control Center. Help and third-party licensing. Now this is, I'm showing this because everyone at some point will need to, has done this, will need to again do this process. So this is the third-party licensing feature, like I said, which connects you to our licensing database. So go to the third-party licensing. Now the vendor name, majority of our indicators, all of our basic indicator package are connected to the Affordable Indicators database. That's the name of, that's the vendor name. Type it in just as I'm showing here. Capitalize the A in affordable, capitalize the I in indicators, make that plural, and make it all one word. If you mistype it, you'll get an error about the vendor name not being correct. Just try again. You have to type it in exactly as I am showing here. The user-defined ID, unless I send you an email specifically telling you different, which that's very rare, everyone's user-defined ID is your email address, all lowercase, without any of the extra symbols like the @ symbol or the dot before the com or the dot before the net. So it would just be all lowercase. Jake, I just sent privately message to you what your user-defined ID will be. So you can see that it's just your email address without any of the extra symbols, all lowercase. Then after you submit it, you'll see your machine ID populate with the user-defined ID or unique ID at the end. Close that and restart your platform. Once you do that, then you're connected to our database. You should see all of the indicators populate on your chart, and you shouldn't get any more messages. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and build some charts from scratch here. We've been talking about the 6E. Let's go ahead and stick with that. We're going to do the 1 minute chart, and the 22 days of data should be great with no template. My default template is no indicators. I just removed the grid lines from the chart. So we're going to quickly add the histograms to this chart. I've spent all morning so far talking just about the histograms, so I think I've about exhausted everything. Unless you have a question, please ask, but I'm going to just go ahead and quickly set these up. Now, I had previously set defaults different than the default from the installation, so some of my settings may be a little different than yours. That's okay. We're going to be changing a lot of them anyway. For the analysis type, I'm going to start with the power zone, and there is this drop-down list here. You can select what type of analysis you want your histograms to be. I'm going to start with the power zone. My filter values, just as we've changed multiple times before, I just need to enter what filter my preference is, whether that's 0 or whether that's the number we had picked out before just by eyeballing the filters. Whatever our preference is going to be there. Now the shift current histo. Remember I said if we're on a price chart, this is a very important parameter. The default is for it to be false. Okay, so if you just are following along with me and you're adding this from scratch, it is going to say false. If you're on a price chart, change this to true. That will take the 7-day look back area, align the current time with the current price bar, and project forward the upcoming turning points for the histogram. So make sure this is true on a price chart. Otherwise, what you're going to get, if you load this as false, what you're going to get is a standard histogram chart, no forward projection, and you will have to scroll back the 7 days in order to see the turning points for today's market. But you don't want to do that on a price chart, because why do you want to look at the actual price bars from last week? No, you don't want to do that. So make sure you shift the current histo to true. And there you go. There's your current timeline and your next upcoming turning points. There's our there's a 2-bar chop zone area, which does not pre-shade. Actually, I don't even know why we're not getting the older. Oh, because the chop zone is disabled. So I told you I messed up all my settings before and had set them as default. I can reset them, but that's fine. We'll just move on from here. So I'm going to turn them on. I'm going to change my CZ minutes down to 0. Again, that's just counting how many bars qualify as a chop zone area. If I want these 2 bars to be shaded as a chop zone, because otherwise you just have to buy turning points to buy power zone signals, that having the chop zone here for these 2 bars will break that up. So I'm going to put this to 0. Personal preference, when I'm on a white background, I just like the color teal for the chop zone, just a personal preference. And then I change the opacity to 6. It just makes it not quite as dark of a teal color. I also like to print the chop zone on all of the panels on price charts because it actually prints the chop zone up into the bars. So it makes it easier to know exactly which bars are which. You don't really have to line it up. And it helps if I actually turn it on. Okay, now one more thing I didn't address yet about the chop zone areas or the histograms, which didn't appear on the standard histogram chart, are these horizontal lines. Now they are showing us the price level that the market is at the close of the last bar in the chop zone area. Now I don't know why the default is the lime color, especially because the default for the chop zone is maroon. You'd think at least that would match. It doesn't. I don't know. I wasn't in charge of the default settings. So I'm going to make this teal since I made my chop zone teal. I'm just going to make them match. So that's under the lines on end of chop zone. So again, that is marking the price that the market was at the close of the last bar within the chop zone area. Looking ahead at the forward projected, we already talked about the fact that the chop zone areas do not pre-shade. So in order to see those, you will just have to draw them in yourself or just remember. Once you've been watching it for a bit, it's going to be easy to identify where those chop zone areas are. So this is actually, okay, if you know how the chop zones work. Okay, the histogram that came, okay, you know what, let me change the colors a little bit so it's easier to see those filters. I'm going to make the filter lines darker. And I'm going to also turn on the inversion histogram. So turn that to true. That's again that mirrored image on the other side of the zero line. Okay, so we see that the histogram that gave us a turning point at 1140 ended at this bar crossover and then did not cross again until here. So the next chop zone area, and I'm doing this just by knowing how the chop zones work. The chop zone starts, it should shade in, I think it starts here, and then it comes out of the chop zone at the bar that starts the histogram that eventually crosses the filter, so the chop zone will actually end here. So that's my next chop zone. Now I can verify that and validate my thoughts by referencing a standard histogram chart. So I see there are the 2 bars here at 1101 and 1102. That's that chop zone area here. And then the next one over here. So I can just compare and see if I got them correctly. Yep. I shaded it in perfect just by knowing how the chop zones work. If you don't want to have to take the time to do that, then you can just look here and you can see, all right, so chop zone from here to here, and just copy that and draw in your own shaded area. So that way you can see, it just takes another couple extra seconds to draw that in. Okay, so I think I've exhausted everything I have to say about the histograms, but like I said, let me know if there is any question, if there are any questions or any confusion on that. So let's talk about the time cycle markers. Okay, now your histograms, just to reiterate, follow the market and the time frame that of the chart that it's loaded onto. If I were to change the time frame of this chart from 1 minute to 3 minute or any intraday time frame, as long as it is time-based, my histogram will automatically follow the time frame of the chart. You can see the histogram now. The times are different, the chop zone areas are different, everything. It's reading off of a 3-minute chart now. My chop zones are going to be different, so I can go ahead and delete those. But your histograms will follow the time frame of the chart. Now your time cycle markers. Let's go ahead and add that on. Now this is representative of the histogram. The time cycle markers are giving you the same information that the histogram is giving you, just in a different format. It is actually placing the dots on like above and below the price bars based on the buy or the sell. Now, when you add a time cycle marker from scratch, some of the setup is going to be similar to the histogram. You have to select what type of analysis you want to use. So we already loaded a power zone analysis histogram. So let's do that for the time cycle marker. So we're loading the power zone. Now the filters, what do you think we need to do with the filters? We need to match them. We have the power zone histogram here with the 0.0004 filters. That's what we like. That's what I decided I liked to see here on the 6E chart. Doesn't matter what time frame. The filters match the market and the analysis type. Doesn't matter what time frame you use. So I want to just make sure I use the same filters, because if I use different filters for the time cycle markers, then guess what? My signals aren't going to match. I have to have the same filters in order to receive the same information. Even though you can't see the actual filter values for the time cycle markers in the same way you can with the histograms, like you can visually see your filters here, you won't be able to see them in the time cycle markers, but they work the exact same way. If my filter for my time cycle marker power zone was smaller than the filter on my histogram power zone, that would mean that the line would be up here, and I would probably get a turning point. I would get a turning point for this little histogram that my histogram is telling me is a chop zone area. So we don't want to see a signal up here on our chart when there's not one showing on the histogram. So make sure your settings match. The indicators do not communicate with each other even when they're on the same chart. You have to set the same parameters. Now, up at the top, okay, so there's 3 major parameters that greatly affect the indicator working correctly on your chart whenever you're loading the histograms and the time cycle markers. For the histograms, it's the analysis type, your filters, and then the shift current histo feature. Remember, because that forward projects the histogram. When you're on the time cycle markers, the analysis type and the filters are 1 and 2, and the third is the base time frame. Okay. The older versions, well, there's been a couple of different updates. So let's just get the latest. I'll explain the latest one, and that way it's foolproof and you don't even have to worry about which one you have. Just like it, kind of like the holiday exception time. I don't know. I just kind of have to discover if something got changed sometimes. But this is one other thing. So your base time frame used to only be activated if the base instrument was applied. However, I have discovered, and I think it might have been the combination of the latest Ninja release too, the Ninja 7 release, so I don't know what happens in the background. But now this parameter does matter even if the base instrument is blank. Okay, so make sure your base instrument, or I'm sorry, your base time frame matches the time frame of the chart. If I were to leave this as 1, this would give me a 1-minute time cycle marker on my 3-minute chart. even though my histograms are giving me 3-minute turning signals. So again, the time cycle markers will not match my histograms if the base time frame is referencing 1 on a 3-minute chart. I do need to make sure they match. So now that I've checked my 3 major areas, the base time frame, analysis type, and filter values, my indicator will now apply correctly on my chart. All the rest is just going to be aesthetics, the way that it looks. So let's go ahead and hit OK. Now mine, I guess it's going to look a little different. Because of my default settings, I already had a lot of things applied and changed, but I will talk about how I got there. You probably will just see little dots just like this, red and green, with no marker labels here. So we'll talk about how to add those. Oh, and let's see. Jacob, if you're around, let me know if you're around. I'll just, oh, there you are, perfect. If you're loading this onto and anyone who is, if you're loading this onto non-time-based charts, your histograms will not work. They are restricted to reading the time frame of the chart only. But your time cycle markers, you can see at the top, has the ability to reference time regardless of what the chart is displaying. So if you're loading a Renko or a range or a tick chart or anything that is not time-based, you are required not just to say the base time frame, but you have to input what your base instrument is in order to see the time cycle markers. Okay, so let's just say that, you know what, let's go ahead and do that real quick. I'm going to just open up a chart. Tell me what kind of chart you like to look at, Jacob. You said Renko, right? What type of, yeah. 6E. Okay, so the historical data is the same. The reference to the indicators is just back 2 weeks after 1 o'clock today. It will be 3, so that's why we add that extra week of cushion of time. Oh, crude? All right, we'll change over to crude. Give it a second to come up. All right, so let's add a time cycle marker indicator. Switch to the power zone. So crude oil, if we look at the filter Excel spreadsheet, which again, like I said, if you haven't found this yet, I'm happy to send out the download for this. Looking at the instrument crude oil, for the power zone analysis that I'm loading, the suggested filter setting, we actually have 2 here. 0.09 was the original filter that Ron liked to use on crude. He has since then increased the filter, therefore decreasing the amount of signals he gets on his chart to 0.15. I like the smaller filters for the presentation purposes. It just gives me a few more signals. So I'm going to put 0.09 for my top and my bottom filter for my power zone on the crude chart. Okay. Now, as I said, if you are on a non-time-based chart and I left the base instrument blank and I hit OK, we're not going to see any. Oh, wait, what? Oh my goodness. This is the first time I've ever seen this happen. Wow. So generally, what I have up to this very moment have seen is that the indicators won't load on non-time-based charts unless the base instrument is applied. This actually makes it easier. So this is a really great new development here. I'm glad I updated everything yesterday. So I'm on the latest Ninja 7 release and the latest software install for the investor package. I should work similarly on the professional. I don't know. I don't have it loaded, but I can check for you guys if you have specific questions like that. Anyway, okay, so this is so nice. It looks like it automatically will read the market now. And you just have to adjust the base time frame. How easy. This is amazing. Okay, so your next question would be, well, do I want to be looking at the 1 minute time frame? Or do I want to be looking at a different time frame? And what if you don't know? Because this chart is not time based, but the indicator is time based. So you want to kind of bridge that gap, right? So you would use the bar transporter. So Jacob is correct. Let's load the bar transporter to our chart. I'm just going to make the text black so it's easier to see on the white background. And this would be the only parameter you may want to adjust, the days of look back. That's how many days back in the market the bar transporter is going to look for bars to average the time of. So let's hit apply and just see what a 3-day look back, which is 781 bars on my Renko crude chart. And the average bar time is 0.55 minutes, so about 30 seconds a bar-ish. So my time cycle markers, we would just round that up to 1 minute. Now there is an option to switch to seconds. You can turn this to true and input 30 here if you wish. I do want to warn you, however, that this is very taxing on your computer. We don't really recommend using the seconds time frame. If you do, keep it simple. You may only want to decrease your data to only, the minimum, maybe 15 days, because especially if you're on a 30-second chart and you're trying to load these indicators, 30-second reference indicators, it's just a lot of data, and it has frozen up the platform before. Multiple times I've seen that. So just be careful if you choose to use the seconds reference. Most I've always seen everyone stick with the minutes, so switch to seconds, leave that to false, and just round up to 1. So your base time frame, you just round that bar transporter up. Let's move that to the top right, just the text location of that message, okay? So we're looking back 3 days, it's averaging 781 bars. You can look at different, you can increase how many days the bar transporter looks back. So let's say you want to go back 5 days in the market. Let's see how that affects the average bar time. It really doesn't. It went from 700 bars to 2,500, and the bar time is similar. So that really didn't make any difference. Sometimes I have seen it actually affect it. Looking back 7 days, you still would just use the 1 minute time frame on your time cycle markers. But the bar transporter, no matter what market you're on, no matter what type of chart you're on, you can load this and it will average your bar time going back however many days you want it to reference. I believe Ron always leaves it at 3, even on a Monday. You can see when I just showed that looking from 3 days to 5 days to 7, it didn't change it enough. So Tracy says, no, don't do the 30-second reference. So see, I'm not the only one who has had problems. Yeah, we don't recommend trying to switch over to seconds. It will freeze things up. Arctic freeze. What are you moving to Buffalo? Oh my gosh, our winters are so brutal here. The wind is the worst. Yeah, the wind is just the worst. You probably get it too in Brooklyn there, being right on the water. Ugh. Anyway, we are coming into summer, so I'm really excited. Our weather has been awesome. The kids have been playing outside. We bought our son a basketball net for his birthday last month, and I'm so thankful that the weather's been nice. He's been out there almost every day being able to shoot hoops, and usually after dinner we'll all go out as a family and play horse or pig or something. So oh yeah, the wind does whip through those buildings, I bet. Goodness. No, thank you. We live, our house backs up to our district's high school, the football field, and there's like soccer fields right next door, and then like baseball fields and stuff. So we're backed right up to this really large open area. So we get a ton of wind coming through there, and we have a 6-foot privacy fence, and it's like all bowed in from the years of wind. And in the back of our house, even, we had French doors as our exterior doors on the back of our house. And the wind coming in, especially when it was like snowing, it like kind of wore down our doors, and we'd get like little puffs of snow coming through. It was like, oh my gosh. So of course we quickly got that whole door replaced. Now we have a nice sliding door. But anyway, yeah, the wind can be brutal. Okay, so anyway, that's such a great development that I discovered here with the non-time-based charts, the indicators. It's a lot easier to set up now. So I will take care of replacing the information here on the non-time-based charts. Now, it won't hurt in the recording, especially Jacob, I referenced you to recommended for you to download this file and look for how to set it up on non-time-based charts. So the only difference between that, what I taught in that video and what now, is before you had to input the base instrument in order for the indicators to show up at all. And by doing that, it activated the base time frame section, but the newest version, you don't have to do any of that, so it makes things a lot easier. You do still have the option to reference other base instruments, though, so that is very, very handy and useful. You just would input the base instrument as the chart would display. So if we wanted to reference the ES turning points on my crude Renko chart, I could do that simply by inputting the base instrument as the chart displays. That includes adding the contract date on the futures market. Or if you're on Forex, type in the dollar symbol. So however the chart would display it, that's how you need to enter it in the base instrument. If you mistype it, then you it won't work correctly. You have to type it in exactly. And then, of course, you can reference whatever time frame you want to display. So you could put a 5-minute euro dollar turning points on my crude Renko chart if I wanted. Just note that the filter values need to match the base instrument that your indicator is showing you. So if you're going to get adventurous and add multiple market instruments, just make sure that your filter values are applied for that base instrument, not the instrument of the chart, because it's not reading anything from the chart. It's the indicator is reading from a different market. Another thing that's very important if you're doing this, referencing other markets, the indicator doesn't pull in its own market data on its own. The chart has to do that. So if you're referencing a euro-dollar chart for euro-dollar turning points, for example, no matter what chart you're putting it onto, you will need to have another chart open for that market. Doesn't there with enough data. You can't just load this chart with 5 days of data. Enough data needs to be loaded. Now that this chart's loaded, I can put the euro dollar indicator onto my crude chart. So it just needs to have the data downloaded from a separate specific chart. The indicator doesn't pull in the data from the server itself. Oh my goodness, Juan, thank you for reminding me. He just asked, when are you going to upload this webinar? He wants to watch it again. And I looked down at my recording. I had paused it when we went on break and totally forgot to resume it. I'm a rookie at recording. I'm so sorry. I'll start the recording now. And like I said, over the next couple of weeks, I will be going through and redoing this. And this video here in the training archive, this will be great for now. Download and watch this. It's just from a couple of months ago. And like I just said, the only thing off the top of my head I can really think of that would be different is just eliminating the need for the base instrument to be input to reference a specific time frame or to put onto another chart. But like I said, even if you do follow exactly what the old video says, it's still going to work correctly. You can put in here the market, which before you had to do that for it to show up at all. You can still do that and watch. It's not going to affect, it's not going to change anything. It's still the same. So that video would still, I would recommend referencing the one that's already on the site here. Okay, so that'll still be good for you, Juan, until I get everything up. Okay. And then, like I said, on the site, these basic ones, these are going to be shorter. I'm going to clip out, so they're not going to be so long like a lot of the other videos. These are going to be short, and I'm going to load a question and answer page. So if you guys have suggestions, here's great. Give me some feedback. If you guys have suggestions, I want to know what you guys want to see on the question and answer page. Email them to me if you don't mind. That way I can keep a list. I've got a couple here, like, obviously filter, rundown, merging, back adjusted data, stuff like that for the frequent question answer page. So I'm going to try and keep all of those videos sub 15 minutes. To explain just for quick references. So really trying to help make this as user-friendly as possible. So give me your feedback here on what you guys would want to see. That'd be awesome. Okay, let's see. So let's go back to the time-based chart. I guess it doesn't really matter. Nothing really is different anymore between the two. Minus the bar transporter telling you what time frame you need. For your time cycle markers on a time-based chart, you just match the time frame to what the chart time frame is, and that's all you need to do. It's pretty obvious you need to load a 3-minute indicator to match your 3-minute chart. So it's easy there. Let's talk about some of the aesthetic changes here. So if you just loaded it from scratch with all of the default settings, your indicator colors will be green and red. Okay, so that's normally what you guys would see. Marker separation is how far away from the bar that your physical dot location is. Okay. Last I saw, both Ron and Michael use the marker separation of 5, and they use that physical dot location to set their stops and their target levels for their trades. All right. Also, if you're adding multiple time cycle markers to your chart, you do want to stagger the marker separation a little so that if they appear on the same bar, they won't be printing on top of each other. All right, so the color changes and the marker separation are under the markers parameters. And then another thing that you probably don't see are the marker labels. The default setting is do not show. I don't know why that's default, but it is. Everybody likes to see them. So you just have to set a placement for the marker label in order to get them to appear. You set the placement for your buy and your sell signals, and then tell it what information you want in the label. Most commonly, the time that the marker was printed is requested. So I had typed in the word time within brackets. Your default would be adding, I think, the analysis time, I don't even remember, the analysis type in the base instrument maybe. But if you expand the bottom section down here, you can see all of the options that you have of information to add to the marker label. Time is the most popular, but especially if you're referencing a different base instrument or a time frame that's different than the time frame of the chart, then you would probably want to reference that in your marker labels. That way it will tell you right here on your chart, this is my marker from X market, or this is, my 1 minute or my 5 minute time frame chart, sorry, my 5 minute time frame marker on my 3 minute chart. So just depends on how you want it set up, what information you want it to show. Let me apply my changes so far so you can see that I did make those changes. All right, so let's say that I do want to reference a higher time frame market. Let's do a 5 minute turning point on my 3 minute chart. I can apply that. And we'll see our 5 minute turning points. They do not match my histograms any longer because the histograms only read the time frame from the chart. That's why you can't put the histograms on non-time-based charts. It is stuck reading the time frame of the chart. There is no option in the histogram settings to reference a different time frame the same way that the time cycle markers show. So the histograms will always show the time frame of the chart. So your time cycle marker, now that we're referencing a 5 minute turning point, we see that they're different from the histogram, but we don't have it added to the label. The only way we could even see that this is a different time frame is if we were to look in the settings. That's one way. The other is the message prediction that you see up here in the top left of the chart. Now that is controlled at the bottom of the parameters. The prediction message location, I think the default is to show up here in the top right. But it doesn't really matter if you're loading someone else's workspace or someone else's template and that doesn't show up at all, then it's likely that the settings were just set to none. That means it will not show that message prediction, or just, again, select a placement. Just like the marker label, you select a placement for where you want that to be, but it does tell you up here at the top that this is your 5 minute marker. And the text for your buy and your sell, it does link to the color of your dots. So there is an almost limitless amount of settings you can do and preferences to make the indicators. You can color code them, you can change the size, you could even change the shape. Like, they don't have to be dots, you can make them triangles, you could make them stars, or whatever you want. You can kind of set them up however you want. And or just remember, okay, if you make that a star, so that's under plots, the buy signal, sell signal, you can make them bigger. You can say I want these to be big dots, but I don't want them to be dots. Maybe I want them to be, I don't know, maybe a square. Maybe there's no star. Let's do a square. That's more like a rectangle, not a square, but whatever. So you can change the shape of them and the color of them. You can color code them, or you could just very easily reference the base time frame of the indicator in your marker label. So you click here, expand the description at the bottom, and you can see that by entering the words base time frame within brackets, you're able to reference what time frame that marker is showing. Now I don't want it to be right next to the time and make the label really long, so I'm going to put an asterisk, Shift 8, to put a new line. So you can see it's kind of hard to read that, but that's an asterisk. So if you add that, it's a placeholder for a new line character. So that's like placing an enter or a return. Then I do open bracket, base time frame, close bracket. I will also do that for my cell marker. Add an asterisk for a new line, open bracket, base time frame, close bracket, and OK. There we will see now. This is my 7:27 marker, and this is from the 5-minute market. Now that 5 is kind of lonely. When you reference a parameter in the marker label, it will literally put the what is input in that section. So there's just a 5 here, so it will only put 5. This parameter can only have a number, but you can type any text you want in here as well. It doesn't just have to be a reference to a parameter. You can now just type whatever you want. So we can put -min or minute, however I want to do this, and then that labels this is my 5-minute marker. Okay. Additionally, and here's another little quick shortcut. Instead of going to indicators and then selecting the indicator to edit, if I see the indicator on the chart, I can double click on it, and it brings up the indicators directly to the indicator I want to edit. So it just saves a little bit of an extra step here. So down in the marker labels, I lost my train of thought, what I was going to do. I think I was going to talk about the base instrument. So let's say you were referencing a different market, the ES or CL or whatever, I don't know, doesn't matter. CL 0717, and I want this to be my 3-minute CL marker. My crude turning points, my crude filters should be applied. Even though we're still on the 6E chart, this is my crude oil signal, so I want the turning points, the filter values to match that market. Now in the marker labels, I still have my time that my indicator was printed on the chart. I still have the base time frame of that indicator, specified that it is a minute. And then I can add one more line if I'd like, telling me the base instrument. Asterisk for a new line, open bracket, base instrument, close bracket, hit OK. So as you can see, there is limitless possibilities for how you can set up your indicators. And it's really just a matter of knowing what you want and then knowing how to do it, which is where I come in. So if you guys ever are struggling or wanting something put together like this and you just don't know, how did she add this or that or whatever, send me an email, or if we're live here, ask me. That's exactly what my job is for, to make your life easier, as you are learning the software and or the platform. So contact me with any questions. I'm the best first contact for the company. Sometimes emails with the guys get lost in their inbox, and I can say that I have been guilty of that before on occasion, but I am generally a little bit hyper alert to making sure that I don't miss any of my emails and everything does get responded to in the best possible timing that I can. I generally don't work on the weekends. Sometimes I will, especially if it's a licensing issue, I will try and get to you on the weekends. But generally, I do try and focus on the family over the weekends and evenings as well. But anyway, I'll still respond to emails. So especially if it's a quick answer, like, oh yeah, hey, here it is. So email me anytime you guys have a question. That is the best way to get a hold of me. I do have Skype. However, I do still prefer email because if you Skype me and I'm not at my computer, it'll come through my phone. But if I'm like driving or something, I can't respond. And then by the time I get home, the alert is gone. And I will forget, just to be honest, I will forget that you messaged me. And there's no way to like mark it unread and have the alert come back on Skype. So email me. I can always mark it as unread and leave it unread, so I will remember to come back. Jacob said it takes a woman to multitask properly. Yeah, I try. Drive and email, work. No, I'm totally kidding. I do not do that. We have kids. I've got an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old, and that's them. I like to show them off. I think they're adorable. That was over Christmas time, but I have to try and set a very good example. So I try not to even have my phone in my lap or check it at stoplights even, because whereas that's totally safe in my opinion at a stoplight, I don't want to make them think, oh, okay, well, I can get distracted at a stoplight, because I just don't want to put that onto them. But anyway, got a little bit sidetracked. I'm actually not a trader, Jacob. That I know it's kind of surprising. I just don't have a desire to be honest. And then also on top of that, I wouldn't even have time to trade. It takes a lot of extra time to study the markets and know what rules you want to set into place. And I don't have all that extra time to put into it. Work keeps me busy enough, and if I'm not actually working here at my computer, I like to be out. I just recently got into gardening. I love to read. Kids are super busy with sports, and I just don't have the time, and my downtime is not wanting to, again, be at a computer. I like to read. So, yeah, but it is kind of funny. I hear a lot of times, well, I can't believe you don't trade. You have all of this at your fingertips. But, trading really isn't for everyone. My dad is a trader, and that's kind of how I got connected into this whole circle, because it's like a community of traders. So he kind of helped me he actually introduced me to Ron and Michael, and that's how I started working for this company. I was brought on to do technical support and software installation initially, and it's been a little over 5 years now. So I've just been, progressing, moving up in the ranks or whatever, and now I'm doing the trainings. So it's fun. It's been a great journey, but it's just not something I actually want to get into. So that's why I will never, in my webinars or any of the recordings, I will never talk about, trade setups. And if I do, it's just simply what I've learned from the guys and what works for them. And I never, claim to have success because I don't do it. So anyway, just as that disclaimer. All right. So as I said, there are a lot of different ways you can set up the indicators. It's just a matter of knowing what you want and just knowing how to set it up. So we have a lot of indicators at your disposal. Most of you will not have everything that I show in my list here. That's just simply because I have pretty much everything we've developed in here. But a couple of the other ones from the main package that are very popular. One would be the Trend Stalker Elite indicator. Everybody has this one. Oh, yeah, no problem. Jacob said, thanks for the honesty. That's all you're going to get from me. I'm not going to pretend to know something if I don't know it. I do not have one bit of a problem telling you I don't know or saying, well, this is confusing me, but I will go get the answer for you, or I will direct you to the correct person to help you. So, yeah, there's that. I don't like to, I hate it when people pretend that they know something and then they talk about it when they really have no clue. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. So you will never hear that from me. The scalpel signal. This is not part of the investor. This is an additional add-on in now, I'm not in sales, so I'm not going to be able to explain all of this. That's great. I can get you back in touch with Michael for more detail on all of that. That's another thing I detest is sales. That's why I'm in training here. In the toolbox and resource structure, you'll be able to see all of our additional indicators for sale. And I believe that the scalpel signal is part of the trigger pack. Yeah, I'm right. Okay, so the scalpel signal is part of our trigger pack, which is a subscription. It's our only subscription package. It contains all of these indicators here. So yeah, scalpel signal is one of them. There's only one that we have pulled out and sell separately. It was our most popular from the trigger pack. So the volume vacuum is a separate standalone indicator cell, but the scalpel signal, it's just part of the trigger pack. So like I said, it's a subscription based service. So you can subscribe to it even just for a month. And if you don't like it, then you can cancel it, and that's that. There's no like minimum monthly requirement. And Jacob, since you just came on board, I can give you it to $150 a month. So just let me know if you're interested in that. Like I said, even if it's just for 1 month, if you're interested in seeing that, I can do that for you. Okay, so yeah, no problem. So the Trend Stalker Elite is another really common loved indicator. It adds a lot of stuff to your chart. So I actually want to load that onto a completely blank chart so we can kind of dissect what that does. And that's going to be the last thing that we talk about today. We've got only about 15 more minutes. So please, if you guys have any remaining questions, type them in now and I'll make sure I get to them before I close down. If not, I'll just cover this and then and we'll call it a day. All right, so I just loaded a blank chart. Again, it doesn't matter. All of this that I'm discussing today, it doesn't matter what your market is, and it doesn't really matter what type of chart it is either, except for the histograms. All the indicators will work, and it's just kind of a matter of adjusting a few of the settings, like your filters, depending on the volatility of your market. So what I'm going to do is just add the Trend Stalker Elite with all of the standard default settings, just so you can see what it immediately does to your chart. That's a lot. So let's dissect this a bit. First of all, you can notice that the indicator colors your bars. It overrides your standard chart bar color, which is normally controlled in the data series. But in the indicator settings, you'll see that there is an option to color the bars. If you turn this to false, oh, and here's one thing, it adds a lot to your chart, but you can pick and choose which things you want to keep and which things you want to remove. It's not an all or nothing type of indicator. You can pick certain aspects that you like and want to keep, and others that you don't, and that's fine. So you can make it so it will not color your bars. That will default back to the regular chart bar color. If you do leave it on, I'm going to make it just regular green. If you do choose for the indicator to color your bars, I just want you to understand how it is coloring the bars, because you'll notice that there are consecutive green bars and consecutive black bars. And some are filled in and some aren't. That's based on the aggressive trend, which is up here at the top, the aggressive parameters. Those are actually going to be these hash marks here that are in between the bars, and the trend triangles, which are controlled here with your trend parameters. So you can really set these up and adjust these however you want. The bar color is based off of the aggressive trend parameters that affects the color, and then the open the shaded in or the blank bars depends on the high or the low close. The low close is the filled in bars, and the open bars or the clear bars are the high close. Okay. All the colors for the other parameters, most of them are done under plots section. So you have your down aggressive and down trend. The down aggressive is your hash marks. These are the black hash marks. And the down trend, it would be your black triangles. And then on the other side, there's your up aggressive and your up trend. So this pale green is kind of hard to see on the white background. So I'm going to make them green, which is exactly what I did for the bar color. It was pale green. I'm changing it to green. On the website, if you just log in, I have to clear my history. I'm linking to, anyway, I don't have to explain that. So just go to the website and log in. And once you log in, you should be directed automatically to the Resource Center. If not, on the right-hand side, you'll see the Resource Center tab. If you go to there, you'll see the Toolbox option. You'll also see that if you go to that Training Garage registration, you'll also see a link to the same place, the Toolbox. If you click on that Toolbox, then you'll be able to look at all of the add-on indicators. You just click on which one. So the trigger pack is what contained the scalpel signal, Jacob. Also, what you guys can do is in the training video archive, a lot of those add-on indicators have training videos themselves. You're welcome to watch them, even if you haven't purchased them. Under additional Flux tools, you can, feel free to watch these just to see if that is, again, something that would be useful for you in your training. And Juan, for the recording, just go to the training video archive and you can download the one that was already there. It covers basically all of the same material that we covered today. It's the sample Monday morning basic Flux toolset training. Okay, and then once you're reinstalling Ninja, it actually shouldn't. So Juan was having some trouble with this platform, and we contacted Ninja support and they suggested to reinstall Ninja, and that shouldn't affect any of your existing indicators or your templates or your workspaces. Okay, so in regards to your question, your email last night on to get that HPE chart back, just open a chart. Just open a new chart, whatever market. I can't remember what it is we were working on. I think a couple of different ones, right? Open a market, set it to time-based chart, and then you'll be able to load this Flux ES histogram, and then just lower your filters. Tell me what error you're getting, or shoot me an email with a screenshot of what you're getting. We'll make sure that you're working. I'm just not sure what you're clicking to get an error. So just let me know about that and I can help you work through it. All right. So back to the Trend Stalker Elite, we're still seeing a whole bunch of stuff on our chart. I explain the bar color, the trend, triangles, the aggressive trend. And as you can see, the bar color is based on the aggressive trend. It changes the color of the bar once the bar closes on the other side of the aggressive trend hash marks. So even though the trend is still up right here, this bar at 1034 closed on the other side of the aggressive parameters. That's why the bars turned black. The aggressive trend hash marks flip to the other side of the bar, while the actual trend is still up until the bar closed on the other side of the trend triangles right here at 1040. Then you can see, of course, we have the big red vertical dashed line along with the triangle here. And we also have our target levels in place between each trend reversal. And then our current target levels, which are labeled. So all of that, any or all of it, can be removed or changed. It's based on your preferences. Scrolling down to the bottom, you'll see the reversal line here. Do you want to see that big red line? Yes or no? If you do want to see a line, but maybe not red, let's make it blue. And I don't want it so thick. Maybe I want it to be a thinner dotted line instead of dashed. So you really can set this up however you want. You still have your arrows upon the reversal, which you can turn off if you want. And then your target levels. The historical target levels can get a little bit messy, so a lot of times if I was setting this up for me, I'd probably want to turn those off and then maybe leave my current target levels on. So you'd have your current target levels. And the last thing, which I mostly get questions on regarding this indicator, is the audio feature or the sound files that are linked to our indicators. Okay, so what you can do is go into, if you know what indicator is giving you a sound, you can go into there and delete the text inside of any of the audio or audible sections. Then it will not give you that sound. However, if you have a chart or multiple charts with indicators that reference a sound, like you'll hear this alert 2 has a beep, and it's just a beep. And there are all of your histograms and all of your time cycle markers reference this alert 2 wave file, and it would take so much time to come in here and every single indicator delete 3 wave files. So in this instance, if you're wanting to turn off the file, the sound off, but you want to leave your computer sound on, of course, if you listen to music or whatever, then the easiest way is to actually go to the location of where that file is and change the name. So that file is located in your C drive, Program Files x86. Then in here is the NinjaTrader 7 folder. Now note that this is not the same NinjaTrader 7 folder that I mostly show. that one is in your Documents NinjaTrader 7. That's where your workspaces are. That's where your templates are. That's where all your actual files and your indicators are saved. Okay. This other NinjaTrader 7 folder, which is in your program files, the only time that you would even need to come in here is if you are just working with your sounds like I am showing. So this alert to sound, it is being referenced by a lot of my indicators. So if I don't want to hear that sound, like I said, instead of having to go in and remove the reference in all of the indicators, I can just simply change the name of this file. I could delete it, but let's say maybe later on I want to get to it. That's fine. Just change the name of it to anything. You just change the name of it. Continue. That way now all of my indicators will not give me that sound anymore. And if I wanted to reference that alert 2.1, I can go to my indicators and say, okay, well, there's no more alert 2 wave. I changed the name of it. From the drop-down list, I can say, there we go. Now that will reference that sound. So that's a quick shortcut. And then the one last thing I wanted to mention is where's that other chart? Here we go. On this chart, when I first loaded the time cycle markers, I mentioned a few things about default settings. I had different default settings than at the point of the installation. I just want to talk about how to do that real quick, because if you're loading indicators multiple times, either on the same chart or you're building your workspace up and you're adding time cycle markers to a lot of different charts, and you find yourself making the same changes over and over, like for example, adding marker labels. With the default settings, you add a time cycle marker. These are set to do not show. So every time you're loading a time cycle marker, let's say at least 2 on each chart, because generally you'd want the power zone and then the momentum analysis. So it's 2 time cycle markers per chart. Let's say you just look at 5 different markets. That's 10 times you're adding this time cycle marker, and you're having to add the marker label and what information you want in that label 10 separate times. What a drag. So let's make this easier for you. Set up your indicator once with the generalized things that you want it to be. So obviously you're going to always be changing a few things here and there, like if you're wanting to reference a different bass instrument or different bass time frame, different analysis type, filters would need to be changed. But things like having your marker labels, having the colors, the size of your indicator, things like that, set it as default. Get it where you want it, and then you can set a default. So it means every time you load that indicator again, all of those settings will be there, and you just have to change the few things to make them different. So in order to do that, you simply right-click anywhere in the parameter setting area and select default, set default for, and then it tells you the name of whatever indicator you're working with. It doesn't just have to be hours. You can do this with any of the NinjaTrader indicators, and it then creates a file on your computer that the indicator reads when you're loading it to the chart. If you mess up on what you've set your default, so let's say you're like, okay, I'm changing all of these settings and I think I like them, let's set it for a default. And then next time you load that indicator and then you say, oh my goodness, I really messed that up. I didn't want to change this to 80. I don't remember what it used to be because I remove it and re-add it and it's still 80. Let's say you didn't remember that it was initially a 120. That's fine. You can go back to the standard default because it's just a matter of deleting a file on your computer. So this is going to be inside of your regular NinjaTrader 7 folder, which is in Documents, the one we normally go to. This is inside of Templates, and then indicator. Normally I talk about the chart folder because if we send you a template, it gets set into here because they're chart templates. But this one is an indicator template. They're preset configurations for your indicator. So open up this folder and you'll see the name of the indicator for what you have set a new default for the parameters. So I see my flux time cycle marker. So let's say I messed up all my settings and I set them as default. I just want to go back. Well, then just delete this file. It doesn't delete the indicator. It just deleted the settings that I overwrote on the indicator. So now that that's gone, I can add a new time cycle marker and look, it erased all of my settings. My marker labels are not there. I'm back to square one. My power zone MA period is back to 120. Okay, so that's kind of an easy way to go back if you've messed up all your settings. All right, so it is 11:30. I'm going to go ahead and close down. Let me know if you guys have any questions throughout the week. Like I said, email me. Happy to help you in any way that I can. And I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for joining me. Thanks, Tracy. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Jake. I'm glad you were able to join. Welcome aboard. Thanks, Alex, for joining. Alex, I did set up your second computer license. I think I emailed you the instructions on the third-party licensing feature. That's all you have to do on your new computer. You should be all set. Oh, thanks, Jacob. And yes, you're right. A lot of things initially fly right over beginners' heads. That's why we continue to have these. We repeat information. It's necessary to kind of dig it into your mind. And we have recordings for a lot of the stuff. So have a great day. Thanks. Hey, Bernard. No, there is a couple of things that is written down in like PDF format, but most of our training is either live or through recorded video, just because it's a very visual thing and it's easier to show and describe in video format. Like I said, there's a few things that are in written format, like I think Michael has I don't even know what they're called. A guide to the histograms. I think he talks about it in his webinars. So like that's a PDF file. This one I showed earlier about the inversions, like this is a PDF. So there's a few things, but most of our stuff is video and live training. All right, well, thanks again, guys. Have a great week, and I will see you all next week. All right, bye.